Hi Year 7, for this question we read that a property developer plans to subdivide 7.5 acres of land into blocks of at least 3/5 of an acre. Through some of the land runs a creek where a protected species of frog lives. How many of the blocks can the developer sell if 2 blocks must be reserved for the creek and its surroundings? Alright, now there are a few little tricks going on with this word problem. At the end of the day, the key skill that we need to apply here will be dividing fractions. But before I dive into that detail, I think it's helpful if we try and visualize what's going on here. So what I might do is draw a picture of this land that we're subdividing. And what I might do, we're told that we have 7.5 acres of land. So let me start by just visualizing that full block of 7.5 acres. So maybe if I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just imagine that this rectangle here represents 1 acre. So the whole block of land is going to be 7.5 of those. So we got 1. So I'll draw another one. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 acres. And then we need another half. So if I just come across a width of 1, that's basically half an acre there. So there's 7.5 acres of land. And we're told that we're going to break it up into blocks. And each block will be at least 3/5 of one of those acres. So 3/5 of an acre. At least. So it could be more, but at the very least, we're going to have 3/5. So if I imagine, if I kind of come down here and highlight this, that's basically 3/5 of one of the acres. So a block needs to be at least that big. So there's one possible block. Now, what the question is asking is how many of those blocks can be sold if they need to be at least that big, and if 2 of those need to be reserved for this creek where the protected species of frog lives. So what I might do is, let's just say the 2 blocks that are being reserved, let's just say it's going to be this block here and this block here. So I might just shade those in blue to represent those being the creek and its surrounds where the protected frog lives. So now what we're really asking is how many of these 3/5 or bigger blocks can we now fit in? So we could say we've got the one here that I started off with, but now we could put another one here. So that's 2, another one here, 3, another one here, 4. We could go, this could be 1. That would be 5, and maybe I'll just draw outlines here so we can kind of see the blocks. Another one here, that would be 6. Another one here would be 7. Then we could put one here, which would be 8. And then we could put one here, which would be 9. And then we've kind of got we've got enough room here for a 10th one, and then a half one left over, but that half doesn't represent enough for a whole block. But what we can do is, because of these critical words at least, I mean this block, or any of them really, can be bigger than just the 3/5, so that could be another block here. So if we look at what's been highlighted, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then this big block here, this kind of last one that's more than the minimum of 3/5, that would be the 10th. So it kind of looks like, if we're just visualizing, it kind of looks like we could sell 10 of the blocks, where most of them are 3/5 of an acre, and there's one that just happens to be bigger. But you could also, in theory, make them all just a little bit bigger than 3/5 of an acre and find a way to make it fit. But I think it's looking like the answer is going to be 10. But what I'd like to do now is work through an arithmetic approach to this, one where we use the skill of dividing by fractions to see how we get to this answer. And I suspect many people, when they read this question, that's what they'd instinctively go to first. But I wanted to draw this diagram and take this approach first to kind of help us unpack what's really going on with these with the wording here, particularly the words at least. So let's jump in. So first of all, if we want to see how many blocks we can sell, I think we first need to calculate the available amount of the land, taking account of the fact that we had to reserve 2 of the blocks for the creek. So what I might do is I'll say the available land to sell would be equal to the 7.5 acres that we have in total minus 2 times the 3/5 acre blocks that we need to set aside. So to help do this subtraction, it's always going to be helpful to have a common denominator. To get there, we should first take the improper fraction and make it, the mixed numeral and make it an improper fraction. So 7.5 would be the same as 2 times 7 plus 1, or 14 plus 1, which is 15 over 2. And then 2 times 3 over 5 is 6 over 5. So that's 2 improper fractions that we're subtracting. It would be very helpful to have a common denominator. I think the lowest common multiple of 2 and 5 would be 10. So we're going to have something divided by 10 minus something else divided by 10. To get from 2 to 10, we have to multiply by 5. So we'll do that to the numerator as well. The way we can do 15 times 5 is we could do 10 times 5 plus 5 times 5. 10 times 5 is 50. 5 times 5 is 25. 50 plus 25 is 75. So we'll have 75 over 10. And then to get from 5 to 10, we've had to times by 2. So we'll do that in the numerator. And 6 times 2 is 12. So to find the available land, we need to do 75 on 10 minus 12 on 10. And we'll end up with something over 10. 75 minus 12 is 63. So there are 63 tenths of acres that is available to sell. And now that we know that, we can find out how many blocks that we can sell. So the blocks that we can sell, basically we can take that 63 over 10 acres that is available, and we need to say, well, how many 3/5 acre blocks, or they could be more than 3/5, but if we take the starting assumption, what if they all were just 3/5? How many of those would fit into the 63 on 10? So we're basically taking the 63 over 10 acres and dividing it by these 3/5 acre blocks. Now, here's where we need to know that if we're dividing one fraction by another, we can keep the first fraction as it is. We flip the second fraction, and then we change the operation to be multiplied. So we keep the first, flip the second, and then change the operation. And now we can make use of the simple approach that when we're multiplying fractions, we multiply the numerator, and then we multiply the denominators. Now that we've got this multiplication going on, it can help to know that the order of multiplying doesn't really make a difference. So 63 times 5 is the same as 5 times 63. And then we've got our 10 times 3. And we can think first, in breaking this down, about the 5 over 10. And think of that fraction, because we know that 5 goes into 5 once and into 10 twice. So really this can become 1 times 63 over 2 times 3. And 1 times 63 is just 63. 2 times 3 is 6. And it might be helpful here to write this as a mixed numeral. So 63 is basically 60 plus 3, all being divided by 6. And if we break this up, we'll end up with 60 over 6 plus 3 over 6. And 60 over 6 is simply 10. And when we add to that 3 over 6, which is the same as 1 over 2, we get 10.5 blocks. Now, if all you did was the arithmetic approach and you hadn't taken the time to visualize what was going on, you may be very tempted to think that this is the answer. You can sell 10.5 blocks. But actually what we need to do is really think about what's going on, because we're not really going to sell a half block. It's this half block that makes things tricky. Really, this leads us back to the words at least up in the question. The words at least, 3/5 of a block, a block being 3/5 of an acre, means that actually if we think about what's really going on, we could sell 10.5 blocks if they were all exactly equal to 3.5 acres. But given they don't all have to be exactly equal, some of them can be bigger than 3/5 of an acre, or all of them could be a little bit bigger than 3/5. It's open, the exact approach taken. But what this really means is those words at least mean that instead of the answer being 10.5 blocks, the actual conclusion we draw is we say, therefore, 10 blocks of at least 3/5 of an acre per block can be sold. And that's comforting because that answer there of 10 is consistent with the conclusion we came to when we did this visually. So that gives us a bit of comfort that we haven't made a mistake working through all the detail of our fractions, first subtracting fractions and then doing division with fractions. That all seems to have worked out okay to get us to an arithmetic answer of 10.5, but the actual result being the 10 blocks once we interpret what's really going on. So there you go. Hopefully that helped with that word problem. Quite an it's a subtle trick going on there, I think, or maybe you wouldn't call it a trick, but a little complication with these words at least, and we need to be so careful with what that means in the context of this question. All right, tick boom.